Hey everyone, welcome to the road to Avengers 5.
In this series, I'm going back every single month and revisiting a previous MCU movie and making updated custom LEGO minifigures to make them as accurate to the movies as possible. Alright guys, our journey through the MCU to get to Avengers 5 is continuing on, and this time, it's brought us to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, kind of crazy enough, this movie came out 7 years ago as of the time of recording this video, and actually, I've been feeling really nostalgic for this movie. Before watching it, I was thinking about the soundtrack and all the great times I had with my friends that summer going to see this movie, and this one just holds a very special place in my heart. So with that being said, let's start building all the characters from Guardians Volume 2. So at the beginning of the movie, we've got Ego and young Meredith Quill, and for Ego, I just went ahead and used the Knight Rider minifig, because of course later in the movie, he actually does turn into David Hasselhoff for a few seconds, which is pretty funny, so I thought I'd just use him here as a reference to that. And for Meredith Quill, I used the head and torso from Rachel from the Friends the TV series, with white sleeves, with tan hands, blue jeans, and some long flowing strawberry blonde hair to tie it all together. Alright, so that brings us to present day, at least in the movie, and of course that gives us the Guardians fighting against the Obelisk. Now, I love this scene. It's just so cool seeing the Guardians in action, and it is kind of crazy to think how the Guardians team has grown and evolved over the years. Like, I don't know, just seeing these Guardians together still feels like a kind of small team now that we have Mantis, and Nebula, and Kraglin. Of course, Nebula and Kraglin kind of joined the crew in this very movie, but regardless, still really cool to see them all together here. So, Drax is the official Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 version, which has the gridded teeth and the blue pants. Of course, you could switch out the head with the one from Guardians 1, where he just has kind of a closed mouth, and there's a rumor we're getting another Guardians Milano, so perhaps there'll be an even better Drax than that, but for right now, this is the best one as of this video. Rocket is kind of interesting because we're going to go ahead and use the Guardians 2 torso and legs for Rocket, but went ahead and added the new Rocket head, brown arms, and of course the brown tail, because I think that's kind of won me over. I do like the gray parts as well, but I think the brown one looks good in context of this movie. Then, of course, we've got the Baby Groot piece, which came with the Guardians Volume 2 sets all the way back in 2017, and we have Gamora and StarLord in their gray flight suit shirts, although ironically, they're more red in the movie than gray, but it's still the best, torso for those two that we have as of right now. Gamora is exactly the same as we get in the set. StarLord has the more modern Chris Pratt head, and he also has the T'Challa StarLord legs on there that give you the boots with the little side rockets on them. And of course, we also have StarLord's helmet, which I'll show you a little later in this video, but I suppose you could put it on the figure here as well. So here we've got Queen Ayesha's throne room from where Nebula is handed over to the Guardians, and for Ayesha herself, I used the torso and skirt piece from Lady Jessica from Dune with gold hands, as well as the head and hair from Ayesha from Guardians Volume 2. For Nebula, I used the Guardians 2 torso and head for her, because I think that works great, and to get a little extra detail on the legs instead of her regular purple legs, I used Catwoman's legs from the Lego Batman movie. Moving over to StarLord, he's kind of got his long trench coat on with the scarf, so the red scarf comes from the Snowman CMF, but it's coming other places too. The torso is StarLord from Volume 2 with the modern Chris Pratt head, and the legs come from the trenchcoat StarLord from Volume 1, because that works pretty well here as well. Gamora also has a new outfit on here, which is basically the same as her Infinity War outfit, so that's the minifigure I used to get this look. Not much longer after that, StarLord meets Ego and Mantis for the first time. So to build these figures, I used those same legs from T'Challa StarLord because I think they just work so great for this look for StarLord. The torso is a flipped around Owen Grady torso, ironically from Jurassic World. If you know, you know. The head also comes from Owen Grady, as does the hair. For Ego, I love the way this figure turned out years ago, and there's not much to change. The hair comes from Ninjago, the face comes from Old Man Ben Kenobi from Star Wars, then I gave him the skinny brown cape around back, I just think that works well, and that came from the Mandalorian Battle Pack years and years ago. The torso comes from the Dino Hunter CMF, but flipped around so that you don't see all of the stuff on the other side. In fact, I could show you what it looks like on the other side. That doesn't work so good for Ego, but this side really does. So we flip around the arms on that and use the legs from Lucy from the Lego Movie 2. For Mantis, this one is a little bit more interesting because we got to break some rules here. So the torso, head, and hair combo all come from Mantis from Volume 2, but the dual molded arms come from Poison Ivy from the Lego Batman movie. You do have to use the eraser method though to get some of the detailing off of there, but once you do that, these arms literally look perfect. Speaking of Poison Ivy, the skirt piece... Oops, I dropped Mantis. Speaking of Poison Ivy, the skirt piece also comes from her, but instead of having it loop around to the front, you just need to get those sides to clip into the side so that the front is not covered, and then the legs come from Lloyd from Ninjago. Alright, so now that brings us to the snowy planet where we see Howard the Duck, Stalkar Ogord, aka Sly himself, and of course Yondu. Now, these figures are interesting because Howard the Duck is the same version I've been using for years. I just think this works so well. This is the Huey, Dewey, or Louie head from the Disney CMF Series 2, with the arms, ironically, from Captain Hook that give you a little bit of white printing around the wrists there that kind of look like feathers. Then we use the tail and legs also from Huey, Dewey, or Louie, and the clown from the Lego CMF series. Then for Sly himself, Stalkar Ogord, I used the Bruce Wayne hair with the angry clone head, a flipped upside down shoulder piece here, just to kind of show those like big hoops he has, but there are Nexo Knights torsos that actually look a lot like that, but sadly I can't find any. I know I have them, I just can't find them. Anyways, this is a flipped around Superman torso with tan hands and blue legs, and for Yondu, I'm using the official Yondu from Guardians Volume 2. I just think that figure is literally perfect right out of the gate, so there's not really much you can upgrade, but I did add one thing, and I've been doing this for years. This is the 1x2 neck bracket on the back with a 1x1 clip that's able to hold his arrow so that you can see the arrow flying over his shoulder when you pose him. I suppose there is one change you could do, and you'll remember this from the Guardians Volume 1 showcase. If you're able to find the old elf character, he's kind of like a dwarf miner character from the CMF series, that can give you Yondu's shorter mohawk. If you're able to find that, it's a pretty cool addition for the earlier look he has in the movie. Okay, so now that brings us to the Ravagers Mutiny, and that gives us, of course, our main Ravagers from the movie. Taserface here is the exact Taserface that came in the Guardians Volume 2 sets. It was pretty nice that he got hip printing and leg printing, plus a unique head, and really the whole thing is pretty much just perfect, so why change anything? Speaking of which, we can't change anything on Baby Groot, but this is the version that has him in his red Ravager jacket, which is adorable, of course. And for Kraglin, I went ahead and used the Guardians Volume 1 torso and legs from Peter Quill so that he can have his Ravager uniform on. Then I used this head from DJ from Star Wars The Last Jedi with the new hair from Hawkeye from Lego Marvel. I think that looks pretty good for all three of these, so we'll keep rolling on. Okay, so for the last act of the movie, we've got StarLord in his short red jacket, aka not the one that has the trench coat like earlier. So I used the most recent version of StarLord for the torso, head, and hair with the printed arms from the Rocket Raccoon polybag from Guardians Volume 1. Then, of course, I used those same rocket boot legs from T'Challa StarLord, because again, I think they work so great. Now, one other thing to mention, I've been talking about it the whole time, is we did get a StarLord helmet back in the day from Volume 2, and I think it looks pretty amazing with the white and red in the eyes. It just looks so good, and it's hard to believe Lego has not given us a Peter Quill StarLord helmet in 7 years as of this video. At this point, the mold is probably destroyed, and who knows if we'll ever get another one, but it was pretty cool to get this back in the day, and I think that this piece looked great. As always in this series, I'm always showing you how to build the Stan Lee cameo as we go along. So Stan Lee's cameo is where he's hanging out with the Watchers. Now, since I made this showcase last several years ago, we've actually gotten official Watcher minifigs. Of course, this is the Watcher from Marvel What If, which didn't exist back in the day, but it does now, so we have an official Watcher minifig. The skin tone isn't exactly what we see in the movie, but it's close enough that I'm just going to let it slide and keep it as is. For Stan Lee, I used the head from Firestar Toys, as I've been using throughout this entire showcase. Yeah, it's not purist custom, but it literally is perfect for Stan, so I'm going to make the exception. Then I used this Mysterio bowl for the head, as well as the torso and legs from one of the recent City astronaut characters to pull it all together. And that finally brings us toward the end of the movie. The only thing to point out, of course, is we do get that David Hasselhoff cameo. I mentioned earlier that we would use him for that. So this, of course, is the Knight Rider figure, but we'll take him out of the screen because what we're really here to talk about are these two girls. So we've got Ayesha, and what I used here is the official Ayesha minifigure from Guardians Volume 2. Then for Nebula in her Ravager outfit, we've got the red Ravager jacket from the Rocket Raccoon polybag with a red arm, a robotic arm, a blue hand and a robotic hand to match each side. Then the head from Nebula, really you could use any of them that work for you or whatever you've got in your collection, and the legs from StarLord, Gamora, or Drax from Guardians Volume 1. And with that, we've completed Guardians Volume 2, so let's round the bases for home and call it a day. Alright guys, well let me know how you think these customs turned out in the comments down below. Like I said, I've been feeling a lot of nostalgia for this movie lately, and I'm so glad to revisit it here with you guys. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.